I'd rather see, rather than the distribution of labor, which is nice, but I think it'd be really difficult, I'd rather see a system where, like in Kerala, you had a certain amount of rice and beans that you had a right to, and that's kind of the bottom, that's the rescue thing. And in the United States, who knows what it would be that we consider our basic essential. But if you have education, health care, your rice and beans are equivalent. I'm not quite sure what else. And then you worked for profit according to your ability. I mean, the guy who isn't producing, they're going to want to fire him. So you need the right to work. You need the right to a job as well. And then if you're a kind of person who just won't work, well, you got your rice and beans.
There's a number of ways we could pursue that path, and there's a couple of things. One is maybe you're right, maybe some form of highly controlled market economy in which there remains private ownership of the means of production, maybe among cooperatives. And the scale is limited.
The scale of wage.
I think there's two things. One is the struggle that would have to. I would argue one, it's we can have something better than that, actually. I think there's a lot. Maybe in other places of the world it's true, but America's not an agricultural society. It's we're a highly automated, mechanized society. It's mostly geared towards the service industry. If anything, we'll have to reindustrialize certain places, and then definitely do a lot of damage control in terms of our environment and infrastructure. But I don't see why the traditional goal of workers and consumers cooperatively determining how much they require and how much they'd like to produce is not feasible. I think that it is feasible, and that's a broader conversation, but maybe some form of social democracy, highly controlled market economy is all that we can fight for. But I'd argue that the struggle that will be put up against us by the resistance from capitalists to establish that would be basically equal to establishing this, and I'd argue that this would be more desirable. So if we're going to go all the way, let's go all the way. If we're going to have to come up against the resistance of the corporations and the states.
Kerala was considered a communist state,
and it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It was destroyed by market forces. The same exists for
destroyed by success, actually.
Partly. I guess what I'm saying is for it to actually be established stable, and not for it to be sort of an island of paradise amidst a world going to hell. It's going to be, a real struggle to overturn the existing system and to establish new forms of social institutions. Even just that level of control, IBM, Bechtel, Halliburton, pick a company, Lockheed Martin, aren't going to be oh yeah, it's fine. We'll lower our, we'll stop producing weapons. We'll stop encouraging politicians to pursue wars in which our weapons are expended, and we'll, try to develop more ethical criteria, scale down our business. It's just not in the structure of the system. It would have to be overturned, and I'd argue that then reestablishing the system with a profit motive contains the dangerous seed of that profit motive rearing its head again. Except in maybe more agricultural societies and things like that.
That means you can't accept something in between because the domino theory is so strong.
Well, we can accept something. What do you mean in between? In between?
Well, a sort of multiple system, because the domino theory is so threatening that if you let profit motive in, then you've got to go all the way. I would think is not necessarily true.
Well, there's other ways of organizing society besides this, outside of a profit motive, I think. And I think this is an important question because capitalism exists on a global scale because of the tendency to inherent in profit accumulation and market forces. If you're an owner of capital, there is a drive over a long period of history, not you, individual owner of capital, but over a longer historical process, a tendency to, I can accumulate more, and it's clearly society could place limits on that, and there were times when society did. Then those limits were systematically overturned by the people who wanted to accumulate more.
Limits and constant struggle.
Yeah. But I would rather, I don't know why we have, I guess for me it's not necessary that we condemn ourselves to a a period of never-ending struggle to prevent those forces from rearing their head again. I think that they can actually be more or less suppressed in a modern society. We have the technological capacity, and I think people have the intelligence, and it's just a question of cultivating their capacities to do that. It's there. But.
Did you say something earlier about being opposed to local production or a small-scale production?
I was trying to be controversial. I was saying that I'm opposed to, for example, visions of a world in which the whole of humanity, maybe there will be a worldwide vote and everyone will decide they want to go back to farming in their backyard. But I like a lot of things about. I like a lot of aspects of modern industrial society. I don't like modern industrial capitalism. I think I can't describe how I feel about it. It's a horribly violent and exploitative system. But I think that when people propose we'll all have local self-sufficient communities, that completely ignores the fact that any global economy, and we're here, it's too late. We have a global economy, capitalism has expanded on a global scale, and if you want a bicycle in a self-sufficient society, then you have to find all the materials necessary for the bike in your community, or go travel, or call this community.
It's all or nothing.
It's all or nothing. I think that in many ways this. Let's talk. There were two questions. Yeah. You first, and then.
I didn't have a question. It was more of a suggestion, and kind of lost my concentration. But it was about getting to the root, of why is it that people don't want to work? Because I believe that the great majority of people, if they're given the education and if they're given the opportunity, they're going to love their work. You can love your work if you're able to explore the potential.
That's in the words again, the word games that people play. Don't call it work, call it productive. I want to do something in this world that is of use. Okay, that's what I want to do. Don't say work. Work. It's like the word socialist. You say the word socialist, some people think, oh my God, you're evil.
So millions of people, or the recent study, around 35% of Americans under the age of 30 would prefer socialism to capitalism. So maybe we're stronger than we actually realize, but we lack the communication across our country and between each other.
The comment that I was going to make was that I think everybody does want to work. I think when you come across people that appear that they don't want to work, they just don't want to be exploited. Exactly. And so if you give them a situation where they can work without being exploited, look out, because they're gonna go for it.
Yeah. One quick question.
Yes.
You mentioned several times global economy, which is very soon not going to be able to happen based on ecological balance. We cannot be having a global economy in any sense anywhere close to what we got now.
I agree. I don't see any ecological balance in this